Okay. So, what is gradient and how do you deal with gradient? So, generally speaking, if you have a, let's suppose you have a graph, right, like this, and there is a line that is coming along down. So, now this line is coming down. When this line is coming down, the gradient will be the slope of this line. How steep or how slopey is this line? This is basically what the gradient tells you, very simply put. How do you find it is another question. We will be going towards all the questions on how to find it, the formula and everything. But first we need to understand what is happening. So gradient is basically the slope of the line. Gradient is also known as slope, is also known as m, is also known as dy over dx, is also known as acceleration. Acceleration, if you go into a bit of physics or kinematics, kinematics will also come. So all of these are basically given to you as your gradient. So whenever they tell you to find out gradient, you will have to do something like this. The formula for gradient, there are two major formulas for gradient. What are these formulas? Let me use the formulas now. The formulas for gradient are, first is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Again, y x being your coordinates. I will be explaining how to fix this in. There can be one more formula that you can apply for gradient, and that is rise over run. In a lot of questions, especially the questions in which you are given area and all of that, what will be happening is you won't be given these coordinates. Rather, you will be given that the rise is, for example, let's suppose 8, and the run is, let's suppose, 7. So then what is your gradient? So if you see this according to this formula, rise over run, then you will have 8 over 7, very simply put as a formula. 1 point something will be your answer, that will be your gradient, very simply. But if they have told you, and mostly what will happen is they will tell you two coordinates, or you will have to see two coordinates according to graph or from the graph, right? So if they did tell you two coordinates, so one coordinate, let's take one coordinate to be 4, and the other coordinate, let's take it to be 6. And then let's take one coordinate over here to be, uh, let's take it as 9, and the other coordinate, let's take it as 2. So if you take it this way, then you have two coordinates given to you. Let's take this as b coordinate, let's take this as a coordinate. So a coordinate is given to you as 4 and 6, notice x axis, y axis, and b coordinate is given to you as 9 and 2, notice x axis and y axis respectively. So when you do this, you put this in your formula. These are x values, these are y values. So this one, 6 will be y1 and 2 will be y2. Let's take this. 2 minus 6 is your y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which is 9 minus 4. So this is x2, this is y2, this is x1, this is y1. So x2 minus x1, y2 minus y1, this is how you figure this out. So you get negative 4 over 5. So negative 4 over 5 will be your gradient. Now notice something over here. The answer that we're getting is in negative, negative 4 over 5. There is a reason behind this. Why? Is because if you notice, this line is coming down. There is a downward sloping curve. So if whenever you have a downward sloping curve, your m or your gradient will always be in negative. If this was an upward sloping curve, for example, something like this, then this is an upward sloping curve, then your gradient would be in plus. So there's a very small trick by which you can check your answers if you did get the right thing or no. If you did not, then you'll have to revisit your question and then you'll have to see what is happening over. So very basically put, this is how you find your gradient. Very simple question. Let's do a couple of more questions so that we can make sure that we have done the correct thing or not. So you'll have to find out the gradients of the following questions. Six and five, eight and two, 3 and 7, 4 and 10, 9 and 5, 2 and 9. Let's take this. I'll do one for you and the rest you have to do yourself. So 2 and 5, y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. So y2 is 2, y1 is 5, over x2 is 8 minus 6. So I get minus 3, negative 3 over 2. So negative 3 over 2 or negative 1.5 is my answer. I know already by seeing this answer that my curve will be a downward sloping curve. How downward sloping? We can do it according to the line. We can take these points 6 and 5. We can plot over here. 6 and 5 we can plot over here, and 8 and 2 we can plot somewhere over here. And how to find the equation of the line, we'll do it later on, but this is basically how you'll get your line, right? So negative 1.5 is the gradient, or negative 3 over 2 is the gradient for the first one. Try these two and let me know if you get this correct or not.